All right, so we are coming to the section of the Sirens. So far we read the introduction, where Odysseus ended up in the hall of King Alcinous. That was at the end of his whole adventure, right before he got back to Ithaca. So he was telling the king about all of the trials that he went through so far. Okay, so from there we went. He told the king about the first loss of a big amount of their men on the island of the Cicones, where his men just went wild. They stole all the goods from the people that lived on that island. They drank themselves silly. They took their women and enslaved them, and so a big battle ensued, and a bunch of Odysseus's men died. So then they went on from there, and Zeus caused a big storm, and they were blown around for a while, and they ended up on the island where the lotus eaters lived. And of course, the big problem there was that the lotus flower was like a drug, and um, what happened was if they ate that flower, then they would want to stay there forever. So Odysseus sent out a couple of men to kind of scout out the area, and he had to drag them back and tie them down to the boat in order to get out of there. Okay. Then you watched a couple of videos on the Cyclops and um, completed your assignment for that. So we had the Cyclops episode where Odysseus and his men were in there in the cave, and then they had to figure out how to get out. So, but they did finally get out. Odysseus had some interesting tricks there with the Cyclops. He first they tricked him, and they stabbed his eye with a giant spear. And when the Cyclops yelled and screamed and his neighbors all came around, if you remember, they said, "Who's hurting you? Who's hurting you?" And the Cyclops said, "Nobody did this to me," because Odysseus was smart enough to say that his name was Nobody. And so, of course, his neighbors all said, "Well, if nobody's hurting you, then I guess Zeus is punishing you for something." And so they all went away. And so then the next day, when the Cyclops went to let his sheep out, then Odysseus and his men tied themselves under the sheep so that they were able to get out of the cave without the Cyclops knowing. And they got away. And of course, when Odysseus got back on his ship, he couldn't help but brag about his who he was. So at that point, he told him, "You tell everybody that Odysseus, the son of Laertes, king of Ithaca, did this to you." And so, of course, then the Cyclops could ask his father Poseidon to punish Odysseus. And of course, Odysseus didn't get out of this without any, problems happening, because he lost several of his men to the Cyclops eating them. But now Odysseus and his crew are back on their way, and they are going to encounter their next challenge, which will be the Sirens. So you're going to be reading this story from Actively Learn. Okay. I think that most of you completed the last Actively Learn story. So this one, I do have it set up though so it can read aloud. So I wanted to show you that. Once you get on here, you will, let's see, from our English agenda, you will be able to click on the Sirens, okay? And that will open up this assignment for you. And once you get in here, you can come up to this arrow right here that says, "Hear the text from the beginning." So if you click on that, it's going to start going really fast. So I'm going to pause it here, and I'm going to show you what you can do. So I like that it highlights like this as it reads. If yours isn't doing that, you should have a tool right here that you can change. You can change the voice. So I have it set up for Brian, who is reading in English with a British accent. But if you don't like that, we have Joanne reading in a U.S. accent, or Joey in a U.S. accent, or we have Emma in a British accent, Emma and Brian. So you have 4 choices there. You also can slow down the speed. So if that's going a little too fast, you can slow the speed to here and then start it. So do this at the beginning, change it, because every time you change it, watch when I hit play. So it's gonna start over, okay? So I'm gonna try this one more time. So for me, I feel like that is a, a decent pace that I can follow along, okay? Okay, and then so I'm not going to play the whole thing for you. I know it is a little bit computerized sounding, but it's better than not being able to read some of the words that are there. Okay, also then it should pause for you once you get to the question. If it does not, you can hit the pause button. Okay, when you get to the question, it will not read that, but you can highlight it and then click on here. Okay, so once you do that, then you can put your answer in here, which I'm going to type random things, and then you'll hit submit. And once you hit submit, then the next passage will open up. And let's see what happens then. So we don't want it to do that, right? So it's just reading the question again. So we have to click out of here, okay? And then I'm gonna see, I'm just playing with this too, okay? So if I hit play, okay, so once I do that, it goes on to the next, but now I'm back to the question, I have to highlight and hit play. So if it keeps doing the same thing over and over, X out, and then start it again, okay? So the next thing I'm gonna do is go to the question. This, when you see this, this is what we call like phonetic reading. So it's just breaking the word down for you. Okay. Don't forget that you can also highlight, and you have a choice there. You can take some notes, you can hear it, you can hit define, and then a definition comes up over here as well. And then you can listen to that, but it's only going to read the word for you. Okay. So this is a good way to listen and read aloud. If I X out of this and if I come back here, I'm going to hear it from the beginning. So I don't want to listen again. So I should be able to highlight and click hear it from right here. Okay. So that's just kind of helping you out. So if you X out of a box and then you're like, oh, shoot, I still want to listen to it aloud. If you come here, see it says hear text from the beginning. You don't want to do that. So now just highlight your text, right click and go to hear it. All right. So you are going to read this section, answer the question. This is a much shorter section. However, I'd like you guys to have this done by Tuesday. Okay. If you didn't do the other actively learn passage, you can go back. So I joined the class. If I go back to my class, the first one was the Odyssey intro and Lotus Eaters. You can still go back and do that one. If you didn't do it, I put a 0 in the grade book, but if you do go back and do it, please let me know and I will go in and change your grade. All right, let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you enjoy the Sirens section.